Folks, we are with Peter Olotka. He is the designer of Dune, the designer of Cosmic Encounter, the designer of a newer game called Wordsmith, and he's got a bunch of things in the pipe. First, Peter, thank you so much for talking to us. We are such huge fans of you.
Well, it's good to be here at the in the inner sanctum of bgg.con before it opens, and it's when you say designed it, I designed it with a crowd.
Sure. Back in the Avalon Hill day, it's never just one person,
well,
but you
all
were
the way.
you were a big part of it.
Sure, and so Jack Kittredge and Bill Eberly and my son Greg Olotka are in on all of these current projects, and so to represent me as I would be represented as a designer.
Yes,
of this collection of games.
Of course.
And the new things we have coming out, which I think people are going to love. One is Wordsmith, and it's published by Heidelberg in Germany with an English edition, and there'll be also 5 languages.
Asmodee be releasing that one?
Yeah. Well, Asmodee is distributing it for Heidelberg, and it's on the market now, in fact. So I actually saw it here in the new game section in the library. It's the first thing I looked for.
Can you tell us a little bit about what Wordsmith is?
Yes, Wordsmith is the evolved game originally called Runes, which was one of the 6 Eon Products games.
Okay.
Back in the day.
Right.
I'm not saying when the day.
Which day?
The. So Runes has been incredibly designed by Heiko Eller and the Heidelberg group. The design is really amazing. The game is short and fun, and we call it a letter piece game because there are 4 pieces that make up every letter in the alphabet. And since we like to break things, we decided, well, if you're going to have a word game, let's break the letters first and let you put them back together.
So you're not just taking letters and making words. You're taking parts and making letters?
Yes, you're taking pieces and making letters. You put those letter pieces together to make the words. And in Wordsmith, play from 1 to 4 players can play Wordsmith. One player can just, see how good am I. I'll play this all by myself and make words.
That's good for Matt. Matt is a solo gamer currently because he has a brand new baby, so he'll be playing that by himself.
Oh. Well, if he has a brand new baby, he can contact my son Greg, who has Elise, who is now 1, and Evelyn, who is now 4.
Congratulations.
Who help him work every day, because when we're Skyping, they're there.
Peter, you being a little bit modest, you just received an award from Tabletop Network, which is like the designers retreat here at bgg.con. What was the name of that award you just received? Do you remember?
Pioneering Gaming Award, and it's
Pioneering Gaming Award,
yes,
exactly, Mr. Modest.
Well, it was my first award that I've ever gotten.
Seriously?
So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Well, it is as an award,
That's amazing.
Like, here's an award. You go and they give you a thing. I bring it with me, but it weighs about 30 pounds. It feels like it's this real hammer, sort of like for a pioneer to have in a
Or like a
stand.
smith for an anvil.
Yeah, sort of an anvil,
It's a custom-made award piece that has your name carved in it.
Yeah,
Is that
my
right?
name is carved into it. It's carved in stone, actually.
Or metal, yes.
Or metal.
Yes.
I don't know what the hammer's made of. The top of it, iron, I guess. Yeah, carved in iron.
That's awesome.
Do we want to talk about the new Dune?
Yes, let's talk about the new Dune. We did a review just a few weeks ago about the new edition of Dune. We had been talking about Dune. We had been talking our listeners' ears off about what an amazing game it is. We talked about it in the context of games from 1980s and earlier, especially 1970s and earlier, have a hard time because the board gaming industry has changed. But Dune is one of those titles that has remained, and we consider it, for us, the quintessential variable power game, the asymmetric player power game, because it is so tied.
Unless it's Cosmic Encounter, of course.
Unless it's Cosmic Encounter, which Peter also was one of the designers on.
It's quintessential and more quintessential.
Thank you.
Can you tell us a little bit about, we know that there were small minor tweaks to the rules of the game that we think pretty much are spot on. Can you talk about the design process and how you guys came to decide on exactly what those decisions were?
Well, in this iteration of it, I would say that from our team's perspective, it was Bill Everly and Jack Kittredge, and actually Jack Rita, who is now another member of Future Pastimes, which is our company, who did the finessing of the rules, along with Ian Allen from Seven Sun Games, and Brad.
Yes. Brad is the guy at the World Board Gaming Championships, the WBC, who runs all of the Dune tournaments and is sort of the keeper of the living rule set that they use for the Dune competitions each and every year. I'm blanking on his name right now.
So Brad and Ian were along with several others, were the main fan contributors to the rules. And I mean, it would be hard to pinpoint, this thing or that thing. I think it was more about being very careful to try to include all of the cases. In my opinion, if I was doing it, I wouldn't do that. But these guys play Dune better than I do, so.
Why wouldn't you do that?
Well, because it's hard for me to play those kind of games. They're too involved, and I can't keep it in my head, basically. So, when I play Dune, I pick who I know. I play one of the characters I can hang on to.
Gotcha.
And stay with that. But these guys are so good at it that, I'm just a sort of a ringer in there hanging on.
We are definitely on the other side of the coin from you. We would never even think of playing Dune under the basic rules. We only want to play with each player playing such a different game. The design of
that's part of the appeal.
Yeah,
for us. Yeah.
Well, the amazing thing about the design of it is how different a game each player, each faction is playing, and yet how they all work together and how they all come and really make some very, very strange bedfellows, especially when you add in the alliance mechanism into the game. It becomes a game of infinite variety because every game is different.
Yeah, and I think, the way we design things, and this is still true today, and I notice this a lot when I walk around watching people play, with all of this information spread out in the collections of cards and pieces that are going to predetermine, they will determine what happens.
Yeah.
What we did and like to do is invest in a character who has certain qualities and write a background information piece on that character and give it game mechanisms that let the player evolve into how to be that person, as opposed to having it, I'm this character and I will be all of these little decks that I turn over one by one. That's who I'm going to be.
Right.
To me, that's not imagination.
Right.
So in the great theme versus mechanisms debate, Dune started with theme, and I feel like when you play the faction there, you definitely feel like I'm playing the Bene Gesserit. I'm playing the Spacer Guild because the mechanisms match exactly the narrative of what that's supposed to be.
So instead of having a zillion cards to say, well, what's going to happen to the Bene Gesserit, the Bene Gesserit's task is to look around the board at the beginning of the game and write down who's going to win.
That's right.
And then sit on it
and
nudge, and everybody knows that. Do I want to take help from?
Yes, no kind
from
act.
Her?
No kind act from the Bene Gesserit goes unquestioned.
And
right?
so there you go. So and then I can remember distinctly when we were first starting Dune, and I was the Harkonnen, and we had given the Harkonnen the ability to have more like way off the chart more traders. So everybody gets a trader.
4 to 1.
Harkonnens get 4, and so who would So I got these 4 traders, started to play, and somebody played the trade right away. And I knew instantly I knew we've got it. We did it because I feel
because you were livid
like the Harkonnen.
Exactly.
And it was like just gut. And it wasn't that I was turning over 1,000 little pieces to see and then keeping it all in my head, and now I can do this to that to this to that.
Sure.
It was I have your traders. Come on.
Come at me.
And then, miraculously, just like in the books, and I don't know how we did this, but a couple of turns in, the Harkonnen are morally, they're just bankrupt. They're like, hanging on, and they're being hammered, and you think, oh man, what's going on?
Everybody realizes how much of a threat they are.
They
It's
realize
a
the threat, and
self-balancing
it's
game.
all of a sudden, it just switches. And it still feels like Dune.
Yes.
And I don't think you could make the game like Dune by trying to populate it with, I mean, it has a lot of stuff that, changes outcomes and becomes data in the game they have to deal with.
Sure.
But it's not founded on that.
Yes.
That's like, it's peripheral as opposed to central. Central is, this is who I am, and this is what I do, and the what I do carries with it this kind of, sense of being this whole character.
Yes.
And I think that's what sets it apart.
Well, this round, meaning the last 8 episodes of the podcast, or last 7 plus this one, we've been talking about old school as the theme. We've been talking about what games used to be versus what they have become now. And we've looked at it from a lot of different ways, but one of the things we've come to is that there was a adventure in the way games used to be designed that we've lost a little bit. And in some ways, we are making better games because we have games with intricate mechanics that are very well designed, but we've also lost something. Some of the most ambitious games, some of the most amazing games, I don't think get made today. I don't think Dune, the way it is, gets made today. I don't think Kremlin gets made today. I don't think Junta gets made today.
Right.
I don't even think Cosmic Encounter gets made today because they are not... they're not driven by math. They're not driven by the mechanisms. They're driven by an idea, and that idea is so encompassing that the designers figured out a game around it as opposed to the other way around.
See, I think the reason that happened is that these kind of serious games attract people who have mentat minds. They do. They have mentat minds. And so they like to build games that reward mentat minds. And I think a lot of players, not a lot, but a significant subsection of the players today want to have that mathematical control. And these games, I'm out of there because I have no math mind. And, I'm not going to remember it. The minute it's turned over, it's gone as far as I'm concerned. I don't see it anymore.
So you're more of a sword master?
So, I don't know. What I'm saying is that when the game, this is why Dune is appealing to people so much, is they sit down now after all of this, and they play this game, and Dune is an emotional game. It's not a what would be the opposite of emotional? It's not a statistical,
efficient,
intellectual, statistical.
So many games are about engines and
Number
being
crunching.
How efficient are you in building your engine?
Right. This has 50% more, so we do this and do this. Dune is an emotional game, and I think that's why people replay it. And it takes a while. I mean, it can be a long game. It can be a long game.
It can be a very long game.
Yes.
But with certain funny things happening, it can be a very short thing.
Yes. You guys changed it from 15 turns long to 10 turns long,
Yes,
which I think is...
Yeah, that came out of the board, the gamers.
I totally agree with that decision. I think it's fantastic. I think it helps the guild because the guild has a win in the case of nobody else winning at the end of turn 10.
I always want to beat the guild.
The guild's great. They're great.
You're shipping, and then, but all of a sudden nobody's shipping, and then what?
Exactly.
What have I got?
But that hurts everybody, right? That's cutting off your nose to spite your face to some degree, which is a wonderful thing. Peter, thank you so much for the interview. We do want to say one last thing before we go, which is that we also mentioned you and your contributions several episodes back when we were talking about, we had an entire episode dedicated to the Sniveler, which is a character, which is a race from your game Cosmic Encounter. And when I mentioned that to you, what did you say to me?
I said, what did I say to you?
I think you said that it was your favorite.
Well,
that it?
it is a favorite. My real favorite is the Philanthropist because it takes people unaware, and everybody thinks he just gives you stuff. What does that mean?
Now, you
But
were-
the Sniveler is a character, and here's one of the things we're talking about. When we redid this game, we addressed this issue of a race of aliens. These aren't a race. Is everybody is the same. Race is different.
Sure.
These people are not a race. They are different life forms. And the term race means same. What's the baseline for it?
Right.
Race.
Yeah.
But they're not. They're aliens.
Interesting.
See, because otherwise, I mean, the Sniveler is not related in any way to the crystals or the,
Sure. Yeah.
crystals. One of the aliens that isn't
Sure,
in
yes.
yet. But you see what I'm saying?
New
Yes,
aliens.
totally. Did you what new aliens?
Are there new aliens coming? Is that what you're saying? Or you said not in yet, or?
Well, no, I'm not in yet.
Oh.
In yet meant that it's one of the aliens from our original game that isn't in the set.
Gotcha.
There's 197 now because we did a booster alien. We did the booster alien at the last Cosmic Encounter tournament. It's
Now,
a nice little alien.
did I hear you right? Did you say that you designed things like the Sniveler to be echoing the types of players
Yes.
as opposed to the other way around?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of aliens that are based on personalities that you run into. You can find them everywhere. I mean, the nanny, for crying out loud, the nanny, is just gonna, or the oligarch. I love the oligarch. If you've ever played the oligarch has everything, and everybody else has nothing, and everybody else gets worse and it gets better. And it was just like
wonderful.
It's just like a great setup, and it's not dependent on turning over anything to see what's going on. It's just there. Okay, I got all this stuff. Let's go.
Well, you'll be happy to know that the term Sniveler is a term that our gaming group uses all of the time. Whenever somebody starts to complain too much about being beat up or something like that, or is looking for some sort of advantage, we say, "Nice try, Sniveler," and we promptly ignore them. So that is your contribution to our gaming group. Peter, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Well, thanks. This is great. This is why I'm in here as the press.
Look forward to seeing you more at the con. Thank you so much, sir.
Thanks.
Great.